Hello everyone. I This week's focus has been relationship with others. I've been missing in action in um, the life for a while, so I wanted to come out to share with you about comparison actually. So I think one of the president is Theodore Roosevelt once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Um, but I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not sure all comparison is bad. Not all comparisons is bad. The response to comparison could be good or bad. Bad response to comparison is envy, hatred, or even killing. In the Bible, there's Cain and Abel comparison lead to um, murder. But people who fail to see others with the lens of love, which is the lens of God, can easily fall prey to envy, a division in relationship when they compare themselves with others. I have this true story that when I was working, I want to share with you. I worked in a corporate office many years ago, and so I worked really hard, and so the hard work led to my promotion, right? To I think from regular analyst to manager and to director. I think our team needs more people in expansion. So among all the people apply for the job, my boss hired a young school teacher, and soon she seemed to become the favorite uh, to my boss. So I start to compare myself with this new coworker, and the thoughts come to me is okay. She didn't have a advanced degree like many of us, and many of us come to work in the company had a PhD. She only had a bachelor degree, and it's also it seemed to be like she worked less, short amount of time, and um, work less, but she actually have more favor. She get more favor with the boss. So that's the negative thoughts coming to my mind, and even worse, that I was assigned to teach her everything that I knew. That the insecurity just started to rise in me. What if she learned everything from me and she got promoted ahead of me? Why do I need to be the one to invest in her promotion? I resented to be the one to help her to further her career. So reluctantly, I had to do the job that was assigned by my boss. That was to train her. Inside of me, I was really angry at this unfairness, and she somehow in my eyes she became an enemy. I wanted to avoid her if I'm not teaching her at all cost. So at that time, I was a young Christian. I knew that those kind of thoughts, like envy and jealous, not good, not pleasing to God. But I did not know how to get rid of it. So one day I came across a Bible verse. Um, it was, I think it's Matthew 5:44 says, "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless those who curse you, and do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you." So I decided to say, let me give it a try to be obedient and pray. I started to pray every day for God to bless her. In the beginning, I was praying, but I still have angry thoughts. Those thoughts persisted in my mind whenever she appeared in front of me. So the few months later, um, that was a few months later, I didn't know that prayer is effective or not. And she brought her daughter to work, and that's like bring your kids to work day. And she came over, introduced her daughter to me. We had a little chat, and so as soon as she left, I realized, oh wow, there's no more envy and jealous in me anymore. So that prayer was really effective, after a few months. And I now can look at her in the eye, carry a conversation. So, you know, the truth is that my coworker was never my enemy. However, she became my enemy through the lens of comparison or envy. look back, on that experience, the comparisons, the qualification, the effort, um, that we put in to get to where we are. Second part, comparisons are perceived favoritism from the leader's authority. So I perceive that my boss had favor on her, less favor on me. And also another comparison is that the more expected of me, I have to be the one to help her. And those are three things we compare. And the three things manifest that really shows that jealous in the heart. So we see this kind of comparison or jealous between siblings within a family. If there's perceived favoritism from the parents, there's comparison in everything. There's envy, even hatred among the siblings. We see this kind of comparisons in the church as well. You know, often hear this educated versus not educated, favored versus not so favored, and anointed versus not so anointed, gifted versus not so gifted, prophetic versus not so prophetic. And the list goes on and on. And maybe you could be the envier of the eye if you are highly favored, you are prophetic, you're gifted, and you're anointed. And that's another thing is you're apostolic. So that's all people envy for. So I am reminded of the story of Cain and Abel. Cain's response to the comparison offering and God's favor lead him to kill his brother. The Bible never explains why God accept Abel's offering, not Cain's offering. It's just because one is animal, one is the work of the ground. So, and then later in the verse, in some Bible verses refer, I get my understanding is that God called Abel a prophet. It's like, wow, he was a prophet. That was in Luke 11:50 to 51. And he, among all the men of faith, and Abel's name was mentioned, so he's called man of faith. It's like, wow, in Hebrews 11:4, which meant Abel believed in God, believed in God's promise, and he had a relationship with God. He heard God's voice and followed his voice. So that's, I think that's probably why his offering was pleasing to God. He probably knows what God is looking for and what is pleasing to God. He probably offered the best from his heart to God because he honored God and he loves God. And um, on the contrary, if you look at, do you find one verse to explain Cain, why God said, his deeds are evil, why he's displeased with his offering, which was the fruit of his labor, by tilling the ground. And so that was in Jude 11 said, "Oh to them, for they walk in the way of Cain and abandon themselves for the sake of gain to Balaam's error and perished in Korah's rebellion." It's like, wow, God put Cain in the same category as Balaam, who cursed Israel, which God asked him not to for the purpose of gaining money. And Korah rebelled against um, God by telling Moses, Aaron said, "Who made you the leader among us? I think we are all holy. Not only you are the leader, but you are holy one." So I remember that. So God really strike him down and open up the earth and all his family and the people relate to him fall into the ground and buried alive, pretty much. So Cain was put into the same categories, like wow. But one thing really struck me is that Cain abandoned himself for the gains, like which means he worked himself to death to make a living. I mean, it's like wow, isn't that a lot of people doing that? Why would God refer it as an evil deed? It's like wow. So we fix our eyes to figure out what kind of offering was pleasing to God. Um, one is because it's sacrificed by the blood, or one is labor from the ground, or one maybe offer the best, or one offer not so best. at the end of the day, what matters is really our heart, which is reflected in our view of God, in our view of self, in our view of others. I think when we see God as a good father who loves each one of us, and um, each one of us deserves to have his love, when we are secure in his love, we would not be judging the fairness of his favor on people. We would not be doing even comparison. So it is Cain who compared and who become jealousy and killed. It's the Cain who worked himself to death to make a living, who did not have a relationship with God, who did not honor, reverend God. And but Abel, who had faith in God, who heard his voice, he did not compare. So have an intimate relationship with God that can help us to see God as who he is, who is good father, who loves, who is good friend, who provide, who protect, and have intimate relationship with God help us to see ourselves as God sees us, that each one of us really are valuable and worthy of his love and his sacrifice, to see others as God sees us. Then we will not have a place for envy and jealous. So I hope this speak to you, and may God bless you, and pray that each one of us would have the lens of love to see